Adequate targeting. Adequate targeting means that there are some target groups which are more ready to adopt technologies than other ones.
Adequate targeting of opinion leaders, lead users, and early adopters is very important, because new products should not use a mass marketing approach, but should be carefully targeted. It is essential if your resources should not be wasted. Before customers buy a new product, they must learn how to use it and which benefits it brings to them. So this is called the customer adoption and customer education process. The key questions are: how do new products build acceptance among customers? What are the characteristics of innovative customers? And which product acceptance features are most relevant for the acceptance process? If we take the examples of brand new products and innovation, above all radical innovation, it is clear that not all customers will adopt the product first. It's a question of price, but it's also a question of understanding. Let's take the example of the mobile phone sector. First of all, these mobile phones were adopted by lead users, mainly businessmen. And the normal user did not adopt this product because the normal user had no need for mobility and for mobile phones. Another example is the personal computer. Not all users were really ready to adopt these computers. First of all, it concerned only universities and companies because of the price and because of the fact that normal users did not really know what a computer was about for. So careful targeting is important to target innovation, real new innovation, to the right customers, which are the lead users or opinion leaders. Or today, a lot of companies, including Google, are working on the quantum computer. A brand new computer with high technology, being 1 million times quicker than a normal computer. It is clear that this computer does not fit to normal users first. It fits to companies who need big server performance, who need speed of treatment of big data, and, for example, universities.
The question is, who are these customers? And this is what you can see here. You have different types of customers that adopt technology. So you have the innovators, who are opinion leaders, lead users, who are ready to adopt very early the innovation. But it's a very small proportion of customers who are ready to adopt real innovations. Subsequently, you have the early adopters, who are also very few in number, who are ready to adopt a new technology. As you can see, target groups, they are linked. So you can see that if the innovators are not convinced, then the early adopters are not convinced, because there are kind of contamination effects through positive word of mouth. And then you have a chasm, which means that if the innovators and the early adopters are not convinced, they will never convince the early majority of customers to use the technology. So it's important to overcome this chasm, to contaminate or to convince the early majority. And once the early majority is convinced, you will see your sales increase. Unless they're not convinced, you stay in a niche market, and the niche market will probably go down. So it's very important to go over this chasm, because without that, the innovation will be a failure. And then you have the late majority, who are very reluctant to technology. They only buy when the technology is really reliable. And you have the laggards, who will actually never adopt the technology because they're not ready. In terms of sales, the sales curve will be very flat in the beginning, and only if the early majority is convinced, it will increase. And once the laggards adopt the technology, there is only already a new technology replacing the older one. So at this stage, this corresponds, even if you reason in product life cycles. Here you are in the introduction cycle, growth cycle, maturity, and declining product cycle. Who are the innovators? So let's have a closer look to the different targets. The innovators are the first customers. They are not typical customers. They tend to be opinion leaders with great social participation. So they are really involved in social enterprise. They are generally high educated, so have high income, so they're able to buy a new product, an innovation. Because innovations are generally, in the first time, very expensive. So they're able to buy because they're not price sensitive. And they're more risk takings. Innovations, you never know if they will fail or if they will succeed. They are ready to take the risk even if the innovation fails.
One example are the videotape markets. On the videotape markets, there were different standards, VHS, Video 2000, and Betamax, and different customers invested or adopted these different technologies. But only one standard won, the VHS. So, in other words, it was very risky to adopt one standard because customers did not know which standard finally won. So only innovators are ready to take these risks. Applied to the software or application market, the innovators are also the first to adopt the not finished beta versions.
They're talking a lot on social media, and we can identify them because they are opinion leaders in it. Clearly, one innovator in one sector is not necessarily an innovator in another. I'll give you an example. For example, somebody who's innovator for computers or informatics is not necessarily an innovator for digital cameras or for applications. And so it depends. They're very, very specialized, these innovators. Then you have the early adopters, which are visionaries. Again, they're not very price sensitive. And again, they adopt very early products and are also willing to take risks. Specialists in one domain, but not necessarily in all domains. You can find them also in cosmetics. If you take the example of cosmetics, the innovators are those, you can find the bloggers, which are on the internet, are talking about new trends in cosmetics or in fashion. They are experts in the domain, and they are ready to test. Innovators are important because without the innovators, there won't be a majority. In other words, the early majority, which are more conservatists or pragmatists, they won't adopt the technology if even innovators and the early majority do not adopt the technology. Then the important target group to achieve a mass market is the early majority, which are pragmatists. They want to have proven solutions and reliable services. So they don't want to adopt technologies that might fail. In the car sector, new cars have always initial problems. If you look to the software sector, new software, if you look at Windows, for example, Windows has always initial problems. The early majority don't want to face this problem. The innovators and adopters, they're ready to face this. It's even a challenge for them. They might even help to improve. And there we come again to the concept of co-creation. Innovators and early adopters are co-creators who are able to improve products in a very early market cycle. The early majority don't want to take part in that. They want proven solutions and reliable products and services. And they buy only if their colleagues, their family, so the people they are surrounded with, is really convinced by the solution and is doing positive reviews about the new solution. That is why the word of mouth of early adopters is very important for them. Once they adopt, you will win half of the market. That is why they're so important. Because in terms of quantity, they ensure that the market will increase. And you have the late majority, they are absolutely risk averse. They are skeptical about new technology products and harder to persuade. They only adopt because of economic necessity or social pressure. So they're not convinced that innovation is good for them. They only buy because their social pressure means that everybody has, if you take the example of smartphones, everybody has a smartphone. They buy because of the friends, with social pressure or economic pressure. So they're very price sensitive, so they don't buy for a high price, so they wait until the price increases. Every technology, once it goes on mass market, decreases in terms of the pricing level. They're only motivated by the need to keep up to date when older products are obsolete, so that by economic and social pressure or technical pressure, they adopt because they cannot do anything else. It's important to convince them through word of mouth from their colleagues and friends. And finally, the laggards. As I stated, the laggards are those, actually it's not an important target group, because when laggards adopt the technology, an innovative company should be already on a new innovation. Because these consumers consider technology as a hindrance. They want to maintain the status quo, are traditional bound. All changes are suspicious, very reluctant, and only adopt if they are forced to, if they have no alternatives. And above all, they have a low social status and education. So they are not ready to understand new things. Older people are mostly in this category of customers.
The communication between the different target groups is what we call today buzz marketing. It's nothing else than the different target groups that talk about innovation and convince the other target group successively about adopting these innovations. As always in marketing, old things are packaged with new words. Today it's called buzz marketing, but it comes finally from a very old product adoption model invented by Frank Bass in 1969.
This has more important implications for marketing. So it's important to target innovators and early adopters first. Again, there's no standardized solution. Who are these early adopters and innovators? It depends on the market. For applications, there are other different early adopters and innovators than for video cameras or for fashion or for cosmetics or for drugs. So it's important to identify these opinion leaders and lead users in every sector, because they might vary from one sector to another one. It's important, how can you identify them? Today, it's quite easy to identify them on social media, because they are generally posting a lot of things on forums. It's important to see, by doing what we call ethnography, to see who is talking on the web, who is talking in the social media. You very quickly will see that some are talking more than others.
And then you can easily identify on social media these lead users, innovators, and early adopters. It is important to promote the innovation to these customers first, before promoting to average customers, as this would be ineffective unless the former targets have first experienced product and are willing to recommend it through word of mouth. Once you have contaminated the innovators, lead users, and early adopters, target the majority when the profit market margins for the innovation or the product decline with the time. When the product has no failures anymore and the early majority has well adopted the technology. In this case, the marketing mix needs to change dramatically as the product or innovation moves through different segments. And as you have already seen in product management, portfolio management, the marketing changes according to the product life cycle. In the launch cycle, in the growth cycle, in the maturity cycle, and in the decline cycle. In the launch cycle, indeed, innovators are the main target, so different, above all, social media are used. The more the product goes through different cycles, the more the media change. And the prices change too. So for example, growth cycle, which corresponds to the early majority, mass media will more used. The prices will decrease because the segments are more price sensitive. And the channels become more mass distribution channels. So we move from individual to mass communication strategies, from higher premium prices to lower prices, and we will also experience the expansion of product lines with different versions or sizes. And we move from selective to mass distribution channels. To illustrate that, let's take again the smartphone market. In the early beginning, when the smartphones were launched, only innovators and early adopters adopted these technologies for high prices. There were very few versions because the market was very restricted, so need for a large amount of product versions. The distribution was selective and the communication was also very selective. The more the smartphones became banalized, the more mass target groups, so the early majority and the late majority, adopt the product. And so it was for the marketing strategies. So as the market becomes more heterogeneous, more versions were produced and offered. Different versions of smartphones, different colors, different product performances, different brands. This corresponds to a higher amount of heterogeneity of the customers. Communication strategies move from highly individualized, selective communication strategies to mass communication strategies on mass media. And finally, mass distribution was applied because selective strategies were not enough to target the large amount of customers in the early majority and the late majority. So in summary, you see that it is very important to apply the customer adoption process to product innovation management. It is important to segment the market according to the different target groups, and it is important to apply different types of marketing mixes and in terms of product politics, in terms of price politics, in terms of distribution politics, and in terms of communication politics to the different cycles of the market.